Arionne Curry is no longer staying silent. For years, people talked about her, judged her, and blamed her for everything that went wrong between Martell and Melody Holt. But this time, she is speaking up for herself, and she is doing it with emotion, pain, and honesty. What she said recently has shocked everyone and made people look at this entire situation in a new way. It is not just about a scandal anymore. It is about a woman who feels broken, betrayed, and ready to tell her side of the story, no matter what the world thinks. Before she became known as the other woman, Arionne was just a young woman who thought she was in love. She met Martell Holt when he was already famous from Love and Marriage Huntsville, a man who looked perfect from the outside, handsome, charming, successful, and family-oriented. To the public, Martell and Melody seemed like the picture of success. They were business owners, reality stars, and parents who looked like they had it all. But behind that perfect picture, things were falling apart. Cracks were forming in their marriage long before the world found out about the affair. When the affair came out, everything changed overnight. The internet exploded, and Arionne became the target of anger, hate, and cruel comments. She was called every name in the book: side chick, mistress, homewrecker, and recently, she was called something that hurt her deeply: concubine. That word broke something inside her. It made her feel less than human, like she was just a piece in someone else's story. That was when she decided she had had enough. She wasn't going to sit quietly anymore while people called her names and ignored the pain she carried. During a recent Instagram Live, Arionne couldn't hold back her emotions. With tears in her eyes and her voice trembling, she said, "Y'all keep calling me a concubine like I'm not human, like I didn't have real feelings for that man." You could hear the pain in her voice. You could tell she had been holding this in for a long time. This wasn't the confident, defensive Arionne people had seen before. This was a woman who was breaking down, tired of being blamed for everything that went wrong while Martell went on with his life like nothing happened. What made this emotional moment even more powerful was that for the first time, people started to listen. Even some of the people who had judged her for years stopped and thought about what she was saying. Because the truth is, Martell Holt was not innocent in all this. He was a married man, a father, and a public figure. The affair did not happen in a vacuum. It was a choice he made. Yet somehow, Arionne took all the heat while Martell slowly rebuilt his image. He started focusing on business, family, and personal growth, while she was left fighting off thousands of online attacks. The double standard was obvious and painful. But there was more going on behind the scenes. Around the time of her emotional outburst, rumors began. While Arionne was preparing to speak her truth, things between Martell and Melody started getting tense again. Melody had worked hard to move on after the divorce. She focused on her music, her businesses, and her children. She became a symbol of strength, someone who had been betrayed but refused to stay broken. She didn't respond publicly to Arionne's outburst, but people close to her said she was paying attention because every time Arionne spoke up, old wounds reopened. The cheating, the heartbreak, the public humiliation, it all came rushing back, no matter how much Melody tried to move forward. Meanwhile, Martell was desperate to hold his image together. He had been trying to rebrand himself for years, showing the world that he had grown, learned from his mistakes, and become a better man. But Arionne's sudden return to the spotlight threatened to undo all that work. Her story, if told fully, could destroy everything he had rebuilt. Then came the sighting that got everyone talking. Arionne was seen meeting with a high-profile lawyer known for working with celebrities in big public disputes. This lawyer wasn't someone who handled small cases. She handled cases that made headlines. When people saw that, they knew something serious was happening. Was Arionne planning to sue Martell? Was she finalizing her tell-all deal? Or was she simply making sure her story would be legally protected before she went public? Whatever the reason, it was clear that she wasn't playing anymore. She was taking control of her life. Inside that lawyer's office, the tension was thick. Arionne sat there in a navy blue suit, trying to look calm even though her hands were shaking. She clutched her phone tightly, knowing that once she made this decision, there was no turning back. The lawyer, Miss Stern, looked her in the eye and said, "If you go through with this, there's no turning back. You'll be opening doors that can't be closed again." Arionne looked down at the papers, legal terms she barely understood, but she knew what this meant. Freedom. A chance to tell her truth without fear. "I'm already in it," she said softly. "They've dragged me through the mud for years. If I don't speak, they'll never stop." The lawyer nodded and said, "Then we do it the right way. You tell your story, but we protect you while doing it. You're not here to destroy someone else. You're here to reclaim your life." That was the moment Arionne decided no more silence. She signed the deal for the tell-all, and once the contract was official, everything started moving fast. Producers began setting up interviews, researchers gathered footage, and the team started planning how to share her story with the world. Word spread quickly, and soon Martell found out. According to insiders, he was shocked. He had assumed Arionne had moved on, that she wouldn't dare bring up the past again. But this time, she was different, confident, determined, and dangerous to his reputation. Martell reportedly tried everything to stop her. He called her, left messages, and even got mutual friends to talk to her. He told her she was going to ruin everything, that their child would be affected, that the fallout would be terrible. But Arionne wasn't backing down. She had already lived through the worst. She had already been called every name and blamed for every problem. She wasn't afraid anymore. His words didn't move her the way they once did. When his attempts to stop her failed, Martell turned to his lawyers. He started exploring ways to block the tell-all, maybe even filing injunctions. But he knew deep down it was too late. The deal was signed, and the cameras were ready to roll. The story was now bigger than him. He couldn't control it anymore. At the same time, Melody was watching everything quietly. She didn't say anything publicly, but people close to her said she felt uneasy, not because she wanted to protect Martell, but because this whole situation was about to bring the past back into her life again. The pain, the betrayal, the public scrutiny, it was all going to come up once more. And even though she had moved on, those memories still hurt. Producers of Love and Marriage Huntsville were reportedly buzzing with the news. They knew that if this tell-all came out, it would dominate every conversation about the show. The entire cast, Marsal, Letitia, Maurice, Kimmy, everyone would be dragged into the storm one way or another. It was going to change everything. When the camera started rolling for the tell-all, Arionne sat under the bright studio lights. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, but her eyes told a different story. They showed years of pain, exhaustion, and defiance. The interviewer started softly and asked, "Why now, Arionne? After all this time, why speak today?" Arionne took a deep breath and said, "Because I'm tired. Tired of being called everything but my name. Tired of people thinking they know what happened when they only know what they've been told. I loved him. I really did. And I thought he loved me. But love shouldn't leave you broken." That single line sent chills through everyone who watched the trailer. It was raw and honest. For the first time, the world saw not just the mistress or side chick, but a woman who had lost everything she thought she had. As the interview continued, Arionne revealed shocking details about her relationship with Martell. She talked about the secret phone calls, the late-night visits, the promises that never came true. She described how he told her he was leaving Melody, how he made her believe they had a future. "He knew exactly what to say to keep me there. He made me believe there was a future." It was painful to hear because it showed that behind all the drama was a woman who had been deeply manipulated. The response was immediate. Viewers were divided again. Some felt sympathy for her, realizing she was a victim of manipulation. Others said she knew what she was getting into and had no right to play the victim now. But no matter what people thought, one thing was clear. Arionne had finally made people listen. For years, she had been a silent part of someone else's story. Now she was taking the microphone. Martell, on the other hand, wasted no time responding. Within hours of the